Why don't we get started? Thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to Careers in Energy Week and welcome to Energy Careers 2021. Glad to be here today with our panelists. Excited about this panel and our discussion this afternoon. This panel is on transferring military experience to a career in the energy industry. And we've got some military folks working in the industry that will talk about their experiences. So I'm really excited about this panel. We will, before I get started and introduce the panelists, we will have time for questions. And so I ask that if you have a question as the panelists are speaking or answering any questions, please enter your question into the chat feature. So there's a conversation bubble at the top or the bottom of your screen in Teams. Please enter your question and we will make sure that we answer it before the end of the panel, before the end of the session. So please remember to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my panelists. So I'm going to start off with Sam Rodriguez. Hi, Sam. Sam is an offshore wind project manager for Dominion Energy. And thank you, Sam, for joining us today and taking time from your busy schedule. Amber Fogarty. And Amber, thank you for joining us today. She is the manager of strategic talent sourcing programs at Consumers Energy. You are also a very busy lady, and thank you for joining us today. So I'm excited. I could read their bios, but we take off a lot of time and spend a lot of time reading their bios and introducing them. So I ask if you're interested in looking at their bios, just click on resources in the platform. And then once you get into the resources, you'll see a resource box. Click on that and you'll see their bios and you're able to read up on them. All right, so thank you for that. So let's get started. First of all, I want to thank you for your service. Each of you are veterans. The two of you are veterans and you're working in the energy industry. And we know right now, I manage the Troops to Energy Jobs Initiative, and I know the biggest challenge that we face is really getting veterans and service members, as well as spouses of veterans and service members to understand these great careers that we have in the energy industry and what great jobs we have. So I would love to hear your stories. How did you find out about the energy industry? How did you get into the energy industry? So tell me a little bit about your military service and then how you got into it. So I'm going to start, I'm going to start with Sam. Let's hear from you. So give me a little bit about your military experience and then your story. How did you get into the industry?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So Sam Rodriguez, retired after 22 years, served in both the Marine Corps and the Army, retired as a transportation chief warrant officer. Never did I think I'd be in the energy industry. Upon transition or preparing for retirement, it was trying to identify the next chapter in my life, where I'd want to go, where I felt I fit in a culture that was similar to what I knew. So reached out to a bunch of individuals, started networking, and came across Dominion Energy. Again, never thought I'd be with Dominion, didn't realize that transportation would be that the energy industry had anything in it associated with transportation or logistics. Found out about the offshore wind turbine project from a great friend of mine that works from Dominion, Matt Kellum, who kind of showed me the position. I looked at it like, wow, that's what I do. That's exactly what I do. And ended up working out perfect. And here I am and so grateful to be in this sector. And just a reward, just as rewarding as my military service was. So
terrific. And it's real exciting what you're doing, wind turbines and wind energy. Real exciting. I'm going to ask you to talk more about that afterwards. So Amber, tell us your story. How did you get into the energy industry?
Sure. Well, I started in the Army right out of high school. I joined the Army. I live in a small town, and I was kind of one of those rebellious teenagers that just needed to get the heck out of this small town. And there was a world bigger than this, and I had to go experience it. I was all enrolled in college. I was heading to Central Michigan University, and I decided I don't want college loans. So I enlisted in the military as a way to satisfy my little travel need and my rebellion. Joined the Army and spent just 4 years in the Army. So I didn't have the decorated career that Sam shared, but I'm still a veteran and I'm still proud of my service. I was blessed to be in a non-wartime period of my life in the early 90s, and spent the majority of my training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Did some desert training at Fort Irwin, California, prior to PCSing and deciding to come home and actually move back to the same small town I grew up in, because life wasn't so bad there after all. I started my education while I was at Fort Campbell, taking classes there at Austin Peay State University, and really wanted to be a teacher. So I went on to get my teaching degree, came back to my small town and got hired as a middle school English teacher, taught middle school English for 13 years, and then got my master's in school in agency counseling. From there, I spent some time in the counseling office at the same middle school I worked in, and quickly just realized public education wasn't what I wanted to retire from. I started to kind of think outside of the box and realized that industry recognizes my skill sets, just as much as the public, if not more than the public school system did, as well as my military skills that I brought to the table. Things like leadership and teamwork and that grit that gets ingrained in you as a soldier really carried forward in not only achieving my college dreams, but going on into the energy industry. So I've been with consumers now for 6 years. I still work with great educational partners in terms of high schoolers and community college students and things like that who are interested in energy. But the difference is they want to be there, and those middle school English kids sometimes didn't. So that's my journey, Rosa.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So some great stories. And I'd love to, I'm going to continue, Amber, and ask you to talk a little bit about some of the work that you're doing right now. I know that part of your job is to bring veterans into the organization and hire them, and you run programs and, just like many other energy companies that are doing that, there you are trying to get veterans into their organization and running great programs. I want to learn more about your programs that you run at Consumers Energy, so that folks know that they should be looking out for these things out there.
You bet. So we do, as a manager of strategic talent pipeline programs, that is exactly my job, is to look at the demand data, look at the job roles that we're hiring for, and determine, is this a simple outreach mission? Do we need to go sit at a job fair and recruit some folks? Do we need to, in terms of like engineering, do we just kind of run the gamut of any engineering program around the state or outside of the state? Or do we lean in as a company and as an industry and build programs hand in hand with these schools to help train up these individuals, specifically in the areas where we really have a hard time finding skilled candidates? So line work obviously is one role we don't just see as a hardship in Michigan, but across the nation, finding candidates who are willing to be line workers. We have found an extremely great partnership with our veterans in this space. These veterans bring some of those same skills to the table that we want our line workers to have, right? So just this past year, we launched our very first partnership with Power for America to launch a Veterans Electric Lines Bootcamp program. And we ran 2 cohorts of that this year. For 4 years before this, we have done a gas boot camp program, training veterans specifically for gas construction jobs in the state of Michigan. So we have some very specific veteran programs, but outside of that, we do a number of programs for disadvantaged youth, summer youth energy academies. We have 6 partnerships around the state to do pre-apprenticeship training for our line workers. In addition to our veterans program, we've hired 103 line workers in 2021 already, and we're projected to hire about 80 more for the next 3 years each. So lots of great partnerships. I love the work I do, and especially the work I do for veterans.
That's great. That's great. And you don't hire just line workers, veterans as line workers, or into the natural gas. Line workers, veterans are all over your company. And I know you've
Amen.
Number
Yes.
Of veterans that you've hired in the past several years, right?
Yeah, we're at about 12% of our workforce are veterans. And technicians, dispatchers, planners, schedulers, engineers, renewables, you name it. We have veterans all over the company.
Great. Thanks, Amber. Sam, I'm going to go back to you because you talked a little bit about the work that you did in the military transportation, and you never thought, what does transportation have to do with energy? Can you talk a little bit about the skills that were transferable and how you were able to land a job in the energy industry, even though your work was completely different? And you're actually working on wind turbines. That has nothing to do with transportation. So talk a little bit about that.
Right. Transportation in the military, you look at it, and I know I did initially, and I don't really see how it's going to fit. And then I learned about this position that I'm at now as a construction project manager for the wind turbines, specializing in ports. And I quickly learned literally how transferable everything was, right? I took it for granted. This has nothing to do with what I did, but you look at some of the same features, logistics, project management. You look at a lot of the requirements, such as leadership, and all of the things that are required in that certain role. I didn't think it was going to be transferable. Upon jumping in, it quickly became relevant. Like, hey, I know this. I can do this. Okay. Wow. I actually was able to perform at a level that I was in the military because some of the roles, some of the functions, some of the culture of the environment ended up being the same. So I'm glad that I allowed myself the opportunity. I would have done myself a huge disservice. And a lot of times we look at what we do and think that it's not transferable, when in reality, it actually is. It is being able to understand that role and see, okay, what you've done and what the requirement is. Right now, jumping in, I'm looking at wind turbines, but my job right now is to conduct all the layouts, construct ports to be able to go ahead and conduct the construction of the wind turbines. So right now we're doing port operations, we're doing logistics and getting materials there, contracting, we're doing management of all the different organizations. So it's literally became a lot more transferable than I thought it was going to be.
That's great. And how long is your project? Your project is a long-term project. Is that not correct?
It is a long-term project. It's probably going to be about another 5 years in total. Right now, we are still in the beginning stages in the construction portion of it, upgrading ports, conducting a lot of analysis, and it's so exciting. It's so exciting.
So what other type of jobs do you see in the work that you're doing right now in that space of the wind turbine and that project coming down the pike or currently available at Dominion?
It's funny, at Dominion, our offshore wind team right now, I would probably say it's at about 30%. And I will tell you, our team is, I call them the A team. And believe it or not, about 85% of them are veterans.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I mean, I have Coast Guard personnel who are experts in water and depth and oceanic sonograms and analysis. And we have prior Navy personnel. We have prior Marines. We have myself from the Army. I mean, literally, just our team is just insane. I mean, and it's all of these different backgrounds and specialties that they brought from their military service. Coming down, I mean, as we progress within the project, there are going to be a lot of job openings. We're going to have wind turbines, and now we need an operations and maintenance facility. It doesn't exist right now. So what are the job opportunities going to be within there? Like Amber was saying, she touched on some of them. Logistics, you're going to need safety personnel, you're going to need technicians, you're going to need more project managers, supervisors, electricians. And these are roles that are coming down the pipeline in a facility that will be completely brand new and new to not only Dominion, but United States as a whole, right? So it's so exciting, the opportunities that exist now and that will come down the pipeline. And I urge people to look at what these opportunities are and seriously look at them. And when you look at them, you're going to see like, wow, this is an MOS in the military, or I did this, or wow, I did that, or, you know, seriously take a look at the description and identify, you know, what you did. And I mean, it's crazy to try to even comprehend all of the opportunities within the energy industry and wind turbines in general. But yeah, so I love it. So excited and always here to help anybody with any questions. And
so I just want to tag and add that we have on troopsenergyjobs.com, our veteran-facing website. We have over 6,000 jobs currently posted. I think there are even more than that right now posted that veterans can search for. And veterans can type their MOS and get a list of jobs that they would qualify for. But take a look at those. And I think, Sam, you're right on. It's those skills that they bring to the table. You all bring those skills. And I think the energy industry, there's so much similarity in the culture and the environment from the military and the skills that you bring that are so similar in terms of safety, community, to the organization, camaraderie, teamwork, leadership that they bring, and those skills are needed in the industry. And so the other thing I just want to reiterate is we have a virtual coach that will come to you, work with you, look at your resume and help you figure out where your transferable skills are as a veteran or as a transitioning service member or spouse. So take advantage of that virtual coach. You can click on it, send them an email. He will respond within 24 hours, and he is a veteran and he worked in the industry. So take advantage of that. Amber, I'm going to ask you, as a strategic staffing and a recruiter, can you talk a little bit about what skills do you look for? I mean, if I'm a veteran and, and I can't find, I'm looking at this and I say, I never did any of this work, just like Sam said. What is it that you look for in a resume, or what advice do you have for veterans and transitioning service members?
So I guess I'm not the one combing the resumes, but resumes do sometimes cross my desk, Rosa. And the advice that I would give somebody who's job seeking right now is, I think so often folks look at job postings, and job postings can be cumbersome and wordy and, there's so much in there. And people have a tendency to look at that job posting and look at the things that they don't have, right? So if you've got a list of 15 things that are recommended qualifications and you only have 12 of the 15, so many people are like, well, I don't have this, this, and this, so I don't fit that bill. I shouldn't apply for that job. Wrong. Like, those are recommendations. And I feel like so often people sell themselves short, especially military veterans. They're not thinking outside of the box of what skills they do bring to the table. And that, at least for me, the strength and the confidence that being a military soldier built within me you can't even describe it. And so I just want to advise folks listening today, if you don't check every single box, do not be discouraged and do not apply because of that, because you have 12 of the 15 and wow, you're well on your way. Or maybe it's worded differently than what you have. So think about synonyms and think about things that are like that you could help, convince those panelists or those interview people that you have. The other thing I would say is, as far as MOSs, the Troops to Energy Jobs or the CEW site has an amazing military translator tool. Sometimes the language that's used in the military versus the civilian world are two totally different things. And I cannot express this enough, how important it is to put your MOS into one of those military translator tools and have it spit out the civilian interpretation of that, because you'd be shocked at what you would find. I put my MOS in there just out of kicks, and I was like, oh, I guess I do have all that. Those are things that I would highly recommend. The other thing, for our company, and I know a lot of companies too use some automated tools for resume screening up front. I strongly recommend that you use keyword matches. When you apply for a job, if there's keywords in a job posting, put those same keywords in your resume and in your cover letter. Pull out those keywords or phrases that will match, because then you're more likely to get through that first computer-generated screening, if you will. With a company like ours that gets thousands of resumes, we have to go to a system like that upon a first screening. So those are things that could really help you kind of, get a foot in the door a little easier and an edge up. But we are a gold level veteran-friendly company, so just having that nice little veteran status on your resume definitely carries some weight with us.
Sam, anything you want to add to that?
No, Amber is awesome. She just threw out so much information that is so valuable, right? Just do your research, look at the opportunities, tailor your resume to the position. Tailor your resume to the position. Don't use the same thing. Make sure you're able to articulate what you bring to the table specifically. And a lot of times, I know for me, I had a lot of assistants. You're looking at an Army personnel conducting port operations and port upgrades, right? Instantly, people would say Navy. Who in the Army would do that? But that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. So I needed to go out there and say, hey, yes, I am prior Army, but let me show you what I've done in the Army, and show you how my skills are transferable and aligned with what you're looking for. So tailor your resume, make sure you're able to identify what you bring to the table and how you can become an asset to that team.
That's great. That's great. The other thing I just want to mention, both your companies have military recruiters, and that's veterans that are recruiting veterans. And so they add so much value to the organization, and they can help interpret and really talk the same language and talk to veterans about that. So, and, in addition to that, not just your two companies, there's a lot of companies out there that have military, especially in the energy industry, because we see the value. And so look for those military recruiters. And we have a list on Troops to Energy Jobs. If you go and register on our veterans database, you'll see a listing of the military recruiters listed there. And so, as well as a listing of all the energy companies by state. They're in there. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that, and you can reach out to those military recruiters and ask those specific questions and network. Claire, can I ask you to add the LinkedIn networking to, okay. So here we go. And you'll see in the chat feature conversation piece, if you want to continue to network with folks from the industry, you can go ahead and Claire will add the LinkedIn. Amber just added the Consumers Energy link there, but feel free to reach in and start looking. But those recruiters can be very helpful. So I talked a little bit about culture, and so I just want to touch upon that, because very often folks coming out of the military are really not clear what the culture is and not understanding the energy industry. And what we see in the energy industry is such great similarity between the military and the energy industry. Can one of you talk about the culture and some of the key points of what you see when you come into the energy industry?
Sure. I would say, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is just the camaraderie and the brotherhood, sisterhood connection within our union ranks. I've never seen a more aligned it works very much like the military does in our line workforce. Those folks have each other's backs. They, they've got your six. They're looking out for each other. They're making sure that they're working as a team because they want to go home safely every day, just like the military members did. So I just can't, I've never seen anything like it so well aligned, and I see it most strongly in our line workforce. Second to that, I would say our dispatch crews. Our dispatch crews are tight. They work in very close quarters. They're, in high stakes positions, dispatching crews out on live lines and making sure safety is of utmost priority. Communication is key. And we know from being in the military how important communication can be, and the importance of that three-way communication. So that's where I see it align best. Rosa, Sam, anything to add from you?
Yeah, I mean, from my experience with Dominion thus far and in the offshore wind, again, it's unique, it's new, it's innovative. So our teams are so close, the communication, the teamwork, the work ethic, the ability to sit there and know that if that person has a task, he's going to make sure that it's done and not let me down. So I'm going to make sure that I need to do to not let him down. And everybody relies on each other. But they also know that we are each going to do our part in order to make the team as a whole successful. With our project, it's being looked at with a microscope. So a lot of it is not about me, it's about my team. And we all need to make sure that we're focused, aligned, and always on the same page. And it's so similar to teams I've been in the military. And as far as culture goes, the transition from the military to what I do now, it wasn't difficult. It was not a difficult switch, change, no issues. It literally aligned perfect. And I was jumped in a team, and within week one, it's like, wow, I feel like I know that I've known these guys for a while. I know how to work with these people, and I know that I can contribute just as much as they can. So definitely amazing in so many ways in reference to culture.
Yeah, I agree. And I think service to the community, I think if you take a look at the energy industry and some of the work that we do, service to the community is important. You talked about safety, you talked about teamwork and leadership, but the other thing I see is service to the community. That's one of the most important things in the energy industry. And you think about storm response. We're out there helping our neighbors in the storm. We're out there, right? And everybody else is at home saying, we're not going anywhere, stay locked down. And the energy industry, we're out there helping and making sure that we restore the power to the communities we serve. Amber?
Yeah, Rose, I'd like to say something about that because although I have a remote role, I work from my home, I have a desk job pretty much. I go out and meet with schools and partners like that. But our company has an all hands on deck storm response model that very much mirrors the ICS, the incident command structure in the military. So I also hold a logistics section chief role for storm restoration. And it's amazing how those military skills transfer. When I applied for that storm role, they instantly promoted me to a logistics section chief because they saw that I had ICS experience from being in the military. So Even though it doesn't align with my day-to-day job, my storm role totally aligns with my military experience.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, with as far as what we do, my military service, 22 years, it was so rewarding. I loved it. And what I do now is so rewarding at the same time. My job is it a lot? It can be a lot, but it doesn't feel like it because I love it. I mean, I'm seriously, I'll get up in the middle of the night like, oh my gosh, I have an idea. Let me write that down real quick. It's just so exciting just to know what we do now, what we're going to do in the future, and how it benefits so many people. So, I mean, just amazing all around.
That's great. That's great. I just want to read a comment. We got a comment from someone with regard to they just started a new role as a military recruiter for an energy company, and that the tool was the MOS translator was very beneficial for him as well. And the Troops to Energy Jobs website in general was helpful. So thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about just lost my train of thought. No, I was just thinking. So we talked about culture. We talked about coming into the energy industry. One of the other things that I hear very often is, well, do I have to come into an entry-level job into the industry? And I think the answer is it depends, right? I think in some cases you do. And in some cases, you can find an exact match and come in and transfer right into a position. But I'd like to talk about those that can't come in, like Sam, you did, into a project manager role. They might have to come in entry level because of what they did in the military. Might not be an exact, it might not be transportation, it might be something else, and they have to come in entry level, like maybe a line worker, Amber, or a natural gas technician, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about the growth progression? Can you talk about the opportunities? Because I started in the energy industry, and I was not a veteran, but I started in the energy industry as a clerk. And what I found was the growth potential, the opportunity to learn and grow. They paid for my tuition through tuition reimbursement. And I ended up in a senior level position, always challenged, always doing different kinds of things and real exciting work. But talk a little bit about what a veteran or a transitioning service member who comes into an entry level position, what can they expect? So who wants to, Amber, you want to start?
Yeah, and I you use line workers and natural gas construction workers as examples. But I will tell you, Rosa, even though that those are technically entry-level positions, I mean, our line workers are making $80,000 a year base salary for a very short amount of training. The return on investment for line work apprenticeships is amazing. And, the beauty of our veterans programs is that they get that training free of charge, and our apprenticeships are Department of Labor registered. So those veterans who didn't use their GI Bill benefits can use those GI Bill benefits to offset their maybe relocation costs, things like that, while getting paid by the company 80 grand a year starting salary. So I don't consider that entry level. Maybe you do, but that's certainly a heck of a lot more money than I made entry level anywhere I started. So I think that forward mobility within our company, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen many of our veterans come in the door at an entry-level position, and instantly people recognize the leadership qualities that they bring to the table, and that grit and that work ethic, and go, okay, you're on a path to leadership, and they work their way up according. So I think that those skills shine through in our veterans, and people recognize that and see them as, standing separate from a lot of the other workforce.
Sam, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the chat box at the same time at one of the questions that came up, which kind of lines up perfect. The question was if I had my degree, PMP, when I rolled into this project management position. I did have a master's degree. I did have a master's degree and 22 years again in transportation and logistics field in the military as a warrant officer. However, I did not have a PMP. I did not have a PMP. And again, as I said before, it was identifying what you bring to the table during your interview process, during your screening process, being able to articulate what you bring to the table, what you've done, and how it can be relevant within that position. I will also tell you that Dominion Specific has programs where they will pay for you to go to college and take courses related to your field while you're an employee. So do I have a PMP, or did I have a PMP? No. Am I getting one? Yes. And Dominion Energy is taking care of it for me. So what can that do? That not only will enhance my abilities within the company, but also be able to just make me a better teammate for everyone. So they're really big on making sure that they give you the tools and the opportunities to get yourself up to where you need to be, whether it's professional or personal growth. So yes, I did have a college degree, but I did not have a PMP. But Dominion themselves have great programs for veterans while you're in, for all their employees, where you can continually grow. And I mean, I've met people within Dominion, and one of the things that shocked me the most is I've been here 30 years. I've been here 25 years. I've been here 28 years. I mean, that goes to tell you something, right? That people don't leave and they actually have the opportunity to grow within the company. I don't meet many people that say, I've been here a year and then I left. No, everybody loves it. And I'm just happy to be part of a team. I will take advantage of all the educational and mentorship opportunities while I'm there, and hopefully progress to even higher levels. So.
And I think there's a lot of support within the energy industry. So if I think about, both of your companies have very, very, very strong energy resource, veteran resource groups. Many of our energy companies have those veteran resource groups that really provide veterans support coming into the organization when they first get hired, so that they can ask those questions, so that they have that support mechanism. Sam, I think you've got something unusual. 85% of your group are veterans, but Amber, you said 12% of your company are veterans, and that is the average across the industry right now. But we have companies that have much more and some that have a little less, but for the average, and we will probably hopefully update that information, but about 12%. So we're doing really well, and we try to provide that resource. So Amber, you're nodding your head. You have a very strong resource group, right?
We do. Our Veterans Advisory Panel is about 400 plus members strong. It's one of 8, I think, employee resource groups within the company. And they just do such a great job of helping veterans stay connected, helping like even, union language, veteran leave, anything veteran issue related, mental health access, all of those things kind of flow through our Veterans Advisory Panel. And you mentioned community service earlier. When we're not in this crazy pandemic world, our veterans are out there in the community helping and supporting each other, doing Habitat for Humanity builds, doing veterans parks, different things like that to help take care of our local communities. And we're proud to do it. It's fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know Dominion has a large also employee resource group network. So across the various areas. So I'd encourage everybody to take a look at Troops to Energy Jobs. You can find the recruiters there listed. You'll also find a lot of great valuable information. Check in and reach out to our virtual coach who can connect you. We can connect you to Amber and Sam should you have any additional questions for them that you'd like to connect with them. We can try to do that. But I'm going to try to wrap up. We've got another 5 minutes. Anything, Sam or Amber, you want to add, or one piece of advice that you have for the veterans that are currently attending this session? And I don't see any other questions from the veterans. I saw a couple of them. If there's any other last minute questions, please post them now. And Amber, Sam, last minute words, advice.
I think I'm just going to reiterate what I said before, Rosa, and just if veterans out there, believe in yourself, believe in your skill sets, believe in what you bring to the table, and apply those accordingly. You've got what it takes, and just go for it. What do you have to lose?
That's right.
Yeah, same. I mean, did I think I was going to be in the energy industry? No. And here I am, one of 25 members on the largest offshore wind turbine project in the United States, and never thought I'd be here. Love it. Amazing. There are so many individuals that are willing to help veterans get into the energy industry. I honestly encourage those who don't think that they fit the bill to look at the available opportunities, because it's so broad. It is so broad, so many options, so many opportunities. And I promise you, if you loved the military and what it did for you in reference to having a career that you felt fulfilled you, you will not be saddened to jump into the energy industry, honestly. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Amber. You're both amazing. Love to have you on a panel. You guys are dynamite. Thank you all for attending this session. I'd encourage you to go check out the exhibit hall. These folks have booths. Go in and check them out. Visit those booths, talk and chat and network. Go into LinkedIn and check that LinkedIn and networking opportunity, and go ahead and network. And then feel free to reach out to Troops to Energy Jobs, talk to our military veteran recruiter and our virtual coach, and he will connect you with anyone in the energy industry and help you out. So good luck to all of you, the very best, and thank you for joining today. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Sam. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.